Hi, this is Matt with Deep Woods Paranormal. Definitely weird paranormal stuff going on today. My computer and everything is not working. I had a lot of strange things happen. Anyways, tonight we've got Elaina Ross on with us. She's one of our Deep Woods Paranormal Team members. And she's going to talk a little bit about her childhood experiences in a house that she lived in that was very haunted. So go ahead, Elaina. Let's hear about what happened to you.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Elaina, like Matt said, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my haunted childhood. So growing up, I'm from Houston, Texas originally. We lived in a subdivision called Royal Oaks in a very old house. It was from the 40s at the time. Sorry, there's an alarm going off. Anyway, so the house was built in the 40s, very old home, very big floor plan where all of the downstairs floor was about 2,500 square feet. And then it had an upstairs master bedroom that was about another 1,000 square feet with a bar. And full wet bar, full like you would find at a club. In the olden days, they would build like game rooms upstairs. Well, my parents, that was their master bedroom. And then out back, we had a big pool with a balcony that came down with stairways to the pool. So for me, I grew up in the center bedroom downstairs. It was a long hallway where 3 bedrooms attached to it. At the very end of the hallway was a master room where we had our governesses sleep. And then my brother and I had side-by-side bedrooms, but mine was the first in the hallway just after the bathroom. And weird stuff happened in this house growing up all the time, between weird sounds, TV and radio just coming on and off as they pleased, running water sounds, all kinds of weird stuff that you can imagine that would happen in a 1940s home. And even though it was completely renovated, it was the 80s, and my mother would change the floor completely about every 10 years. Wow. So we went from hardwood carpeted floors to hardwood floors to Spanish tile. And so there was always activity. And I'm pretty sure it's because we kept changing up the house with construction all the time. And that usually stirs up spirits. They don't like things changing around their environment. Well, when I was little, I had my 13th birthday party with about 14 other little girls sitting around a Ouija board because no one was watching us. And
I love the Ouija board.
Right? And we lit a candle and we all put our hands in and we all did like one finger on the seeing eyeglass because we wanted to make sure no one was cheating or pushing anything around. And me growing up in this house, I already knew it was very, very haunted. Things that happened to me, I witnessed things, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But specifically in this instance, we asked if anyone was there, and it said yes. And, you know, being girls, we just want to know names. So we're like, okay, what's your name? And it said Edward. And we said, okay, well, when did you die? And it said 1901.
Wow.
And we're like, whoa, that's scary, because we were all little, and it was the early 90s at that point. And, of course, being girls, we say, you know, well, do you have a nickname? And he said Eddie. And what's really interesting about the name Eddie, and mind you, this is all being spelled out on a Ouija board, is that the street I lived on was actually Eddie Stone. So I was like, what is that?
Yeah. That's
a little creepy. You know, I lived in a house with a ghost named Eddie on a street named Eddie Stone. I mean, that really creeped me out, you know, at 13. And anyway, we asked it, you know, how did it die? And when we said that, my bedroom door had been ajar. Not completely open, but not shut either. Well, a gust of wind blew through the room right between one of the girls. Mind you, we're all in a big circle. There's 14 of us, right? All in a big circle. A gust of wind blew between 2 of my friends across the Ouija board, blew out our one single candle. And, of course, we had the lights out. And it was late afternoon, so it wasn't super dark outside. And then my bedroom door slammed shut. The wind came from my window area in the corner of my room, and that window was completely closed and good insulation and everything. So that scared the living daylights out of 14 little girls, well, 13 plus me, so 14 little girls, and they all went running and screaming, and the birthday party ended pretty quickly. It was only about 5:30. Parents were called, kids were picked up, and this was a big pool party we were having. You know, we'd been outside all day playing and eating cake and whatnot. And it just completely ended the party. And most of those girls to this day still remember this experience and never would come back to my childhood home because they're like, no way. We experienced something. We're never going to do that again.
Right.
And for me, this was like not even a big deal because so many other creepy things that happened growing up in that house. Some of those experiences were, it would be like 2 or 3 in the morning. I'd be sleeping in my room. It's pitch black in there other than my little night light. I had a toy that would light up and make sounds if there was motion in front of it. And I had a really mean brother that used to beat on me when I would sleep. So I'd keep the little toy by my door, and it would like make a loud kind of like alarm sound.
Right.
When motion happened, and it would go off all the time. And my brother was nowhere to be found or spending the night at a friend's house or whatever. So, the first thing your parents say is like, oh, it's just malfunctioning. Let's check the battery. It was an old 9-volt battery. The toy was not malfunctioning. Something was moving in my room. And being an adult now, I think that the spirit was more of a shadow person.
Yeah, because that's not creepy.
No. It was obviously dark enough to form a body or some kind of blockage of this toy's eyes to create that movement, because it needed to be waved in front of its eyes, like your hand or, like any motion sensor would work. It had to be something solid. So I'm starting to believe now as an adult, when I think back to that childhood experience, it was probably a shadow person, going by it all the time and setting it off. But just completely terrified me as a child. So you would hear my little feet running across the house, going all the way up the stairs. Mind you, I told you it was 2,500 square feet downstairs. So for like a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old, that's a long trek to get to your mama, and then up two flights of stairs to get to her room. Bang on the door. She used to lock it. Back then they didn't ever want the kids to just come in. Crying and sleeping on those steps is one of my funnest memories from childhood. Sleeping on that top step, crying, hoping my mama would open that door because I was so petrified of what was going on downstairs. I would hear, we had those old analog TVs, so you 90s babies and younger probably don't know what that is, but you actually had to push the buttons on the side of the TV, and it made a loud like click, click, click sound. It was like channel 2 to 13. And those TVs, when they came on, it would be really loud, like, whoa. It didn't save your settings when you turned it down or anything. So it was really loud, and in the middle of the night, you'd hear that thing turn on as loud as possible. And that's back when TV would go off at midnight. So all you'd hear is the black and white screen of static.
The white noise.
Yeah, the white noise. And it'd be so loud. And this is also during the time when Poltergeist came out. So you can only imagine how horrified I was in my bedroom hearing the Poltergeist sound, and just creative imagination as a kid. Oh my God, waiting for a little girl to scream out, oh, they're here.
Oh no.
Please God, don't let that be true.
Yeah.
So that had happened. My dog would never come in my bedroom. He was always very, very skittish of it. I had a little golden cocker spaniel, and he was my best friend. And we'd hang out all day. We'd swim in the pool together. We'd hang out in the living room, my mom's room, any bedroom, but not my bedroom. So he would never sleep with me. So I had like 400 stuffed animals, like bears and giraffes and the glow-in-the-dark caterpillars that used to come with Teddy Ruxpin, all over my bed. And let me tell you how scary it is when your caterpillar starts talking to you and he wasn't hooked up to Teddy Ruxpin. That is some really scary stuff. Because my parents would buy my brother and I toys that were linked to each other. So he got Teddy. And the way Teddy Ruxpin worked is you put a tape in the back of him, a cassette tape, and you plugged in his caterpillar friend, which is who I had. I don't remember his name. But he connected with a little audio cord to Teddy, and he could talk with Teddy reading a tape that was in the back of Teddy. Well, that caterpillar talked without Teddy, and it was really, really frightening because Teddy was the only one with speakers. So when that caterpillar's mouth is moving and you're hearing sounds, and of course it wasn't really words, it was just sounds, and that's who you hug at night for safety and protection. Again, I need therapy.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a lot. It was a whole lot. But probably one of the scariest things that ever happened in the house, I remember, like, it was pretty frightening. I was about 7, and I heard the water in the kitchen running, like, at full blast. And we had those large, like, swan neck is what I described, the faucets that come way up high and loop over. And it was just on full blast, as if you'd taken the filter off of the water. You could just hear it splashing against this metal sink. And so I got up in the night. I was already a light sleeper, obviously, because things kept happening. Yeah. And I tiptoe across to my living room, which is the first room at the end of the hallway before you go down the hall for bedrooms. And I could see the water on from where I was standing, which was in the living room.
Wow.
And there was a good 30 feet from the living room to the kitchen sink specifically. It was an open floor plan, but there was a long open bar, and the sink was on the other side of it, the refrigerator side, if you will. And I could see a glass floating, no joke, something straight out of Ghostbusters. A glass floating, and it filled with water, and I like screamed because it scared me. I'm little, and then it just fell to the ground and shattered in a million pieces. Well, that kitchen is between me and my stairwell to my mother. So every bit of the bravery in my little 7-year-old feet ran like the wind up those stairs and knocked down her door. And I was like, you have to come downstairs. You have to see it, Mama. I'm not lying, like it's happening. Because, when you're a kid, no one believes you. They just think, oh, she's just having a nightmare, whatever. I wasn't. These things were really happening to me, and I was terrified. So I made my mother come down, and this is one of those experiences where finally I had a witness. Finally someone else saw what I saw or whatnot. Mm-hmm. She came down. Sure enough, that water was still running. It hadn't been turned off or anything, and there was a shattered glass on the floor. And so that was the first time she was like, maybe there's something to this, and then of course I got grilled about, well, Elaina, are you lying? Did you throw this glass? Did you have an accident? Now you're trying to blame it on a ghost. I'm like, Mama, no, please.
Yeah.
So basically, for the majority of my childhood, I slept upstairs in my mom's room, except for the nights that she forced me to go back to my bedroom. And anytime I slept in my room, it's like this entity, whatever it was. Sometimes it was a shadow person. Sometimes it was just a ghost, I guess. I saw one day in the corner of my bedroom where the door is to the hallway, we had the hallway light turned off, and I saw it form into a person. And sure enough, this thing looked like a soldier, an old-timey soldier, a Civil War type.
Wow.
And the eyes were clear, like you could see through them, translucent, not with bright lights or anything that you'd see in the movies, but you could clearly make the outline of a soldier, and it was like a smoky, consistency, mm-hmm. And it was standing there. But at that time, when that appeared to me, and I assumed this was Eddie, assuming I don't know, know, now what I know with entities, spirits, and demons, probably not, who knows, it never seemed scary. Like, it didn't seem like it wanted to harm me. It almost seemed like it wanted to protect me or was watching over me. So I really feel like our house was probably built over an area that might have had some old-timey war action.
Yeah.
That's all I can imagine, because it was already a pretty old home. Mm-hmm. And again, the construction kept happening every 5 to 6 years with my mom. Wow. So I think we were just constantly stirring up something.
And where was that house at?
That was in Houston, in a neighborhood called Royal Oaks.
I think I've heard of that. Okay.
Yeah, and the street was Eddystone, so you could still look up. They've completely redone the house now. I've been past it, but I lived in that house for 22 years, and it got to a point where you just kind of live with it, and you're just like, leave me alone, or Eddie, stop it, or whatever. And I mean, it could be really scary. And then at one point, like in high school, I was convinced that this ghost was following me to school. Like, I was convinced. Like, my locker would slam shut. And these are things that are like so obvious to see and hear to me. But then trying to get someone else to catch it at the same time, they're like, oh, you're crazy. Like, that didn't happen. I'm sure you just hit it with your backpack. No, I'm standing here staring at it, and it's slammed shut. Like, I'm not crazy.
I know the feeling.
Right. So trying to explain to your friends, you just start to hide it or not talk about it. Mm-hmm. And then, got out of the house, 22, whatever. You're an adult and you really don't talk about it. And I had a kid really young, so I never spoke about it with my son. He's always been really scared of scary movies or anything like that. Anything paranormal, demonic, he doesn't want to hear it. He is just chicken,
Yeah.
So I never talked about it with him. But as I got older, I found that I must be a sensitive, because I could walk into places and be scared out of my mind. I could just feel something different. The air was different. It was heavy. Mm-hmm. Felt like someone was sitting on my chest. And I'd be like, whoa, I've got to get out of here. Because when I was apartment hunting a lot with a 2-year-old, I'd just walk into some places and I'm like, absolutely not. People talk about bad juju. I felt the bad juju, and absolutely not. growing up in the house I grew up in, always had that bad juju.
Right.
And it took me 22 years to get out of it. So there's no way in heck I was going to put myself back in the situation, especially not with my baby. I wasn't going to put him through that either.
Right. Sorry, we got a lot of truck outside the house here.
That's okay. Anyway, so now I've been on a couple of investigations with Deep Woods Paranormal, and really there's only been one place that I had that same oppressive type scary feeling, and that was at the old jail. Okay. We were going upstairs setting up, and I think I might have talked about this on one of our outros, but going upstairs setting up in the solitary confinement area, and it felt like it took over my body because it was just so angry and mad and just, it made me lightheaded, dizzy, and immediately nauseous. Now, I mean, I could write it off and say, hey, maybe that was EMF. Maybe there was a lot of old wiring or old lighting or something that made me queasy. But just the fact that my whole being was shaking of like something mad, I'm like, oh my gosh, let me get out of here before it pushes me down these metal stairs.
Yeah, and I had that experience going up the stairs at the old jail too. And our old jail will be on YouTube here in the next, we started part 1 already, but the rest of the parts will be up here in the next probably week or so. So you guys can view that on our YouTube channel. But anyways, get back to your story, please.
Oh, no problem.
So, yeah, I mean, that jail was pretty interesting. Definitely. Did you have any experiences at the Woodline? Did you feel anything at the Woodline?
At the Woodline, we were in the bar when a lot of the activity on our KII Meters was happening. I mean, specifically, the KII Meters would light up in front of other people, and I could sense that something was there, but it wasn't a strong enough feeling to be like, oh, this is happy, sad, mad, glad, nothing. It was just you could sense something was there. And I've always had that sensitive side about me. I mean, some people call it like the sixth sense, where you can close your eyes and I know when someone's beside you. I know when they're walking towards me, if they're within 2 feet or 20 feet, I could feel it. I could feel them there.
Yeah.
And that's what I got at the Woodbine. I would walk around and I could feel something was in there with me. Yeah. And I think Christy had an experience in the little girls' room at the Woodline Hotel where something took over her.
Wow.
And I was there with her. We were doing EMF sessions, and something took over her, and we had to get out of there. It was really scary because it was clearly demonic, and we can call it the little girls' room, but that was no little girl that haunted her that day.
So if you haven't heard this story, there was a couple when we were down in the dining room. Elaina and her husband Eric weren't with us, unfortunately, but they went up there. It's Halloween. No, it wasn't Halloween night. It was the night before Halloween night, and there was a couple staying in that room, and something went up there, was knocking on the door, turning the handle, let me in, this is my room, let me in. And so they came down, and long story short, were asking us if we had done it, and no, we did not, and we went back up there, and we did get some more evidence from that room. But yeah, everybody had an experience in that room. Mm-hmm. That room is pretty interesting, but yeah. Mm-hmm. It seems like there's a lot of spirits at the Woodline. So.
And you'll hear a couple of stories from some of my other team members on this team about the San Antonio Railway where the kids on the bus died. Well, there's a spot in Houston. It used to be called Old Katy Road, and there used to be a railroad track there. Same story. We actually sprinkled the powder like baking powder. What's it called? Baby powder. That's what I'm trying to say. Baby powder on the back of my mom's Lincoln. She had a big old Lincoln Town Car.
Nice.
And we were teenagers, and we're like, okay, we're going to get down to the bottom of this myth. This is ridiculous, And so we sprinkled baby powder all over the back of her Lincoln. It was a navy blue Lincoln, so white baby powder really shows up. And we sat at the bottom of, and it wasn't a big hill like a huge incline or anything. It was just kind of a hump, really. And the humps, because they have to build the tracks up high for the train to sit on the dirt or whatnot. Well, we sat there in the Lincoln, and it was in neutral. And like I said, it was just a low hump, so it's not like the car rolled backwards or anything. But it did roll forwards, and there was little kids' handprints. And here's the scary part. It wasn't like a 5-year-old's handprint. It was more like a toddler's handprints all over the back of that car. Now, we were just teenagers, and back then, you didn't have digital cameras that you could just take your iPhone or your whatever and snap pics. Right. We only had, like, disposable Kodak cameras or the old school Polaroids or something like that. And do you think we brought any cameras? No, we didn't, because we were just messing around. We were teenagers just seeing if something would happen. And when the car rolled up, it only rolled up onto the tracks itself, because we didn't stop on the tracks, we were before it,
Mm-hmm.
It straight up pushed us onto the tracks. And I was like, oh my God, we need to get off it, because at some point your common sense kicks in and it's not worth it anymore. It's not worth it to wait and see. Plus we were big chickens anyway too. But we did see the handprints on the back of that car and immediately washed them off, because to us that's like demons, we're like, oh my God, it pushed us onto the tracks, like we're gonna die. But really it was probably trying to push us over the hill, over it, instead of backwards or whatnot. But so it's really funny that 2 of our members have had that San Antonio experience, and I had it in Houston.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, we're going to have to say goodnight to Elaina. Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Nice talking to everybody.
All right. And we'll talk to you guys next time.